we come on the air, former Penn State coach Jerry Sandusky has been sentenced to prison for the rest of his life. He is 68, and today he was sentenced to at least 30 years behind bars, the price for sexually abusing children. And today in the courtroom, he defiantly stood face to face with some of his victims, who were just 10 feet away.
What you are seeing is the beginning of when everything changed for the Penn State Nittany Lions. They had gotten so used to this way of life, they never could have imagined the day that change would finally come. And nobody could have seen what happened in regards to the way that it all went down. It started with Joe Paterno, an elder to the Penn State football program who had been coaching with them for almost half of their entire existence. He joined Rip Engel's staff all the way back in 1950 and then became their head coach 16 years later. It's what began a tenure of which likely none will surpass in duration alone. From the beginning of his long haul from 1966, Paterno would lead the Nittany Lions to some of the greatest feats their program had ever seen. He had 5 undefeated teams through his time and won the program 2 unanimous national titles in 1982 and 1986. Paterno turned Penn State into a respectable force across college football, rarely ever coming short of expectations. This continued in 1993 when they dumped Independence for that smexy conference revenue. They joined the Big Ten where, as concluded from an undefeated season in 1994, they'd continue to thrive. Despite Paterno's inability to get Penn State to the national championship stage, his consistency over decades eventually pushed him to qualify for the College Football Hall of Fame in 2007. He did what no other coach has been able to come close to and reached over 400 victories in his time as head coach. His 409th against Illinois on October 29, 2011 would unknowingly be his last, as the kingdom he built came crashing down worse than anything out of the Ottoman Empire. The cause of that would be one of the most disturbing, horrific, and infamous events in college football history. In November of 2011, the Penn State Board of Trustees commissioned an independent investigation against longtime assistant coach of the Nittany Lions, Jerry Sandusky. He had started coaching all the way back when Paterno did, and despite retiring in 1999, he played a significant part in everyday goings for the football team still. But nobody, not even the FBI, could have ever realized the Pandora's box they opened the moment they found out what really went down in Happy Valley. In November of 2011, following evidence and victim statements, Sandusky was indicted on 52 counts of crimes related to some of the worst things you can ever do to a child over the course of 15 years between 94 and 09. It took 6 months later for him to be convicted of 45 of those counts. He would be thrown in jail to serve the rest of his life behind bars. But with those horrendous crimes also came the outcome in regards to Penn State's football program. Allegations immediately surfaced about Paterno, as well as several other members of Penn State's staff. As we later found out, Mike McQueary, another assistant coach involved, told Paterno about what was happening all the way back in 2001. Paterno did what anyone would do and chose to act by telling the AD and nobody else. Once those details came to light, Paterno's plea of innocence no longer had any worth. The big red button was firmly pressed. This was a cover-up of a crime truly unforgivable. This forever tarnished the legacy Paterno had and terrorized him to his deathbed. But of course, the rest had to go too. School President Graham Spanier would be sent out to the Shadow Realm as well. Vice President Gary Schultz and Athletic Director Tim Curley wouldn't even get the chance to run out of office because they were caught by the Popo first. Charged with perjury and obstruction of justice, they had to answer for their crimes in prison. The football program itself, with all the leadership cleared out, was now a sitting duck for the NCAA to feast upon. This included vacated wins over the course of the last 13 seasons, including 112 of Paterno's wins. A massive $60 million fine was thrown in their face, a 4-year postseason ban and reduction of 20 scholarships per season, 5 years of probation, and of course, the freedom to transfer with no penalties. Yeah, I too remember when the NCAA had power. Good times. But with the program being scorched of all its riches, it was going to take a miracle to continue their high-level success. Only one man would have the balls to take on a task this heavy, and his name was Bill O'Brien. Believe me, I'm just as disappointed as you are. He served for 2 seasons at Penn State and somehow managed to carry some sort of weight on his back. He blew everyone away by having 2 winning seasons in a row off of the chaos the program had to endure. The only case I can think of in regards to a guy winning National Coach of the Year for going 8-4. O'Brien had interest come in from the Cleveland Browns and the Philadelphia Eagles, both of which he declined, stating that he's, quote, not a one-and-done guy. Said he wasn't going to cut and run after 1 year. That's for sure. He was right about that. he cut and ran after 2. Philly and Cleveland are a no-no, but Houston, that's some good football right there. And just like 2 years ago, Penn State's head coaching spot was vacant once again, leaving the door open for the real star of today's coaching clinic. But before you meet him, let me tell you about the one app Brendan Sorsby didn't use the last 2 years. Prize Picks, the sponsor of today's video. I should feel ashamed of myself for biting on the low-hanging fruit once again of Sorsby jokes in July of the current year, but I'm a YouTuber. Regurgitating the same jokes for long past their expiration date is half the fun. Speaking of fun, Prize Picks is the place to be if you're looking for more fun while watching sports. With the World Cup underway right now, and especially now that the US has been eliminated, there's no better time than now to sign up for Prize Picks so you still have a reason to care. What I like about Prize Picks is that it doesn't take a lot of time to figure out. You simply choose whether a player will finish with more or less on their projected stat line and build your lineup from there. There are a ton of available options too. It's available in over 40 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Florida. And if you're new, they're offering $50 in lineups when you place your first lineup. All you've got to do is download the app and use the promo code HMA. So if you're looking for a fun way to follow the action during the World Cup and beyond, check out Prize Picks today. And of course, play responsibly. While Happy Valley was one bad loss or another sanction away from burning to a crisp, there was a miracle going on down south in Nashville, Tennessee. The Nerd Academy serving as cannon fodder for the SEC, also known as the Vanderbilt Commodores, suddenly wasn't so cannon fodder anymore, an outcome of which came to light from a man we know today all too well, James Franklin. With coaching experience dating all the way back to 1995, he didn't get the opportunity to take full control of the program until 2010, where after serving 3 years as Maryland's offensive coordinator, the Commodores took a chance on him. It would be one of their greatest and smartest decisions to date. James took Vanderbilt to insurmountable heights for a program of their lowly stature. James never fell short of a bowl status at Vandy, a program that's never made it to back-to-back bowls. Until this year. He gave them ranked wins, domination over their rivals, and led Vandy to their first end-of-season ranking in 64 years. He crafted legends in Nashville, including record-setting receiver Jordan Matthews and 3,000-yard rusher Zach Stacy. We won't talk about how that legacy ended. All in all, Franklin did something with Vandy no other coach in our lifetimes up to this moment has been able to do. Give them football relevance. Naturally, by his third year's closure, this would attract the eyes of many ADs searching for a new coach. Of those names, David Joyner, the man to take over admin duties at Penn State, wanted a part of that. It took him less than 10 days after Bill O'Brien's departure to decide between Franklin or former Tampa Bay Bucks and longtime Scarlet Knight coach Greg Schiano. Imagine how that timeline would have gone. Instead, though, we live in the one where Joyner made the smart decision. The 16th head coach of the Nittany Lions has been called upon. He's proved already through his time at Vandy that he can recruit, he can develop, and he can adapt. Or at least that's how they envisioned it would go. From the time that he was hired up until he no longer served time with Penn State, he would gift the program with various trophies, notable victories, and consistent national relevance. Based on everything that happened a few years ago, it's safe to say the administration and fans alike are more than happy to bounce back from a potentially program-killing scandal. Look at how long it took SMU to become relevant after theirs. With success like that, I'm sure Franklin was able to leave on a high note and ride off into the sunset knowing that Penn State as a whole loved him for his efforts. Right? Well, clearly not. Even just 3 years before this moment, even a year before it, even 2 months, nobody could have ever imagined the cataclysmic downfall this tenure suffered seemingly overnight. Other than another program-killing scandal, what in the almighty 1986 could have gone so wrong? Well, in order to understand the answer to this question, you must first understand the concept that will be following us all the way through the journey you're about to witness. It's a concept you know as Big Game James! Allow me to take you on a journey through some of the moments that verify the concept and why this was more of a slow burn than a whiteout avalanche. James Franklin would get a true test for his Nittany Lions on an expected calendar. Happy Valley was more like Agitated Valley following a blowout loss to the 101st ranked offense in the land, that being Northwestern. They needed to rebound fast, and no better place to do that than the Big House. The Wolverines were shittier than shit as reflected by their 2-4 record, losses including to Rutgers and Minnesota, plus Brady Hoke being their head coach. They had horrifically bad offense, but the problem for the Nittany Lions was, so did they. Their offense was similarly one that struggled to score more than 20 points per game. led by the offensive target, as an offensive to watch, known as Christian Hackenberg, ensuring that this would be one of the most Kirk Ferentz football games of all time. Matt Wiley carried the Wolverines since Penn State did what they always do and carried the team through their defense. Bad throws, horrid drops, almost no mobility from either squad. It was almost impossible to tell which team wanted their season to end more. Tied up at 13 in the fourth quarter, Wiley hit a field goal to give Michigan the lead with an abundance of time left for the Nittany Lions to respond. The end result of that response is as follows. Big game James! Penn State promptly did nothing through the entire 10 minutes they had left, ending their hopes and dreams off of an intentional grounding penalty that led to a safety. I know that you're thinking this is probably a one-and-done way to blow a football game, but fortunately for you, James Franklin made sure to recruit the same quarterback for the next 12 years. The only difference from now up until we get there is the shock Happy Valley will feel after every time it happens. Such an example can be found after their bye week. After suffering from getting a shocking teabag from the Turkeys, Ohio State is on a warpath through the entire Big Ten. And one of the only things to get in its way is a spoiler at home in the form of a whiteout crowd louder than ever under the lights. Since running was obviously off the table against the likes of Joey Bosa, Hackenberg would have to carry the fight the whole way through, by using the concept that Penn State fans have long since become familiar with: consistency. James Franklin is a major icon of that word, as you'll know all too soon. Despite Hackenberg's struggles, JT Barrett was having little luck in return against the raffle pass rush from Penn State. Continuous stagnation from the Nuts through the second half paved the way for competence on the side of the blue and white that showed on their final drive. They scurried down the field for a Sam Ficken field goal to seal chaos overtime. An upset of this magnitude, over a hated rival no less, could be astronomical for the Big Game James rap sheet. Or how I should have phrased it, Big Game James! That's what you get for actually entering the game in the third quarter. Well, they did their best to go on. The fatigue eventually caught up to the Penn State offensive line, leading to Hackenberg getting sacked by his own lineman through Joey Bosa doing Joey Bosa things. James turning his offensive game plan into heave the ball or perish is going to be a reoccurring theme like a lot of things here. Unlike their state rivals, the Spartans are having themselves a rare moment in time where they became competent, and that showed through their schedule. Their only loss came to Ohio State in a close, competitive shootout, so I'm sure the Nittany Lions can hold their own during the duration of this game. The only thing was that there was no whiteout to fall upon this time. There was by technicality, and no, I'm not talking about the blizzard they played in, but rather the bird shit dropped in the stadium to illustrate Penn State's performance. It took them all but 1 second to instantly fall off a cliff from an RJ Shelton kick return to open the game and close the hopes and dreams of slightly more upset Valley, or whatever was left of them. With an exhausted defense halfway tapped out of the season already, James was already cooked to the point that he couldn't even manifest the Big Game James moment. Couldn't even do that in the bowl game either because they don't call the Pinstripe Bowl a big game. Hackenberg at least closed out his sophomore season with a complete flip-flop image of what he did against the Spartans. Momentum like that is likely to be carried into 2015. Considering Franklin's recruiting and consistency, of course the scholarship cut is going to sting, but hope for greater years remains. Let's see how long that lasts. Penn State opened a few eyes in 2015 when they went through half of their 2015 regular season with a 5-1 record. A strong showing at Columbus against the #1 team in the land would be the exact thing to make them stay on the map. Did they do that? Nope. The defense tried their hardest to hang on so the offense could accidentally do something every once in a while, but the constant wear and tear on the field caused exhaustion as early as the second quarter. When you consider they had to go up against the likes of Cardell Jones and JT Barrett in the same game, there was no way a 7-13 quarterback stat was going to help them here. They did gain a multi-year asset as shown by freshman running back Saquon Barkley. He was elite on the field, and him and Chris Godwin Jr. were practically the only reason why the Buckeyes didn't shut them out. Everything else went like EA's love from the college football public and dipped into the black hole of nothing. At least Ohio State did a first for the Nittany Lions and wore black to celebrate their funeral. Another bright side is you won't have to deal with a quarterback this elite for a lifetime, just until another one takes his place under Urban Meyer. If you weren't there for Hackenberg's 7-13, don't even bother to show up for his 13-31. Worse for you, since Michigan is a coach who actually gives a shit about the team's performance on the field in the form of pre-cheat Jim Harbaugh. This was the year he started a lineage of elite defensive lines that tortured Penn State's fluffball of an offensive front. Hackenberg spent the entire game on his back because it took them no less than a second for his view to be the sky or the turf. Without Barkley's running ability to fall back on, Penn State was at the mercy of the Wolverine offense and whether or not the defense could get equal pressure on Jake Rudock. There's that consistency again. Consistency to not tackle. Taking that to a whole new level. You'd think losing to Michigan is fun now, just wait until every other season. You know what's funnier than getting blown out by the Spartans? Getting blown out-er by the Spartans. Connor Cook grilled you worse than a 4th of July hot dog from a house in Florida. Melted whatever chance you had of a feel-good season because those losses are the type to make you wonder if following football is even worth it. But at least having your guts slowly pulled out is an equal fate to having your entire lower half torn out in the blink of an eye. Nothing says gut punch by letting your opposing team's center score almost half of what you did the entire game. Better luck in the next year. The ranking is irrelevant. Two major out-of-conference rivals meeting on the gridiron for the first time in 16 years is what most would consider a big game, especially with it being so early in the 2016 season where anything can happen to anyone. Ketchup Field had a record-breaking crowd, and since you can't beat any of your other rivals, what better chance than now to have something over someone other than Maryland and Rutgers? The issue was in regards to your will to make that change, you weren't having any of it. You let Pitt take a 3-touchdown lead in the time span of a quarter. King of yards. You can get a lot of them, but you don't know how to turn that into points. Luckily for you, it may have taken a half to adapt, but someone has been waiting for his turn and will now have his shot. Introducing Christian Hackenberg 2.0 in the form of
quarterback.
Throw it on a dime like I ain't even trying. Just a kid from Briarwoods, I'm wearing number 9. Coach Franklin down at Vandy, flipped to Happy Valley. Now I'm coming back and got the natty on my.
Well, I mean, for what it's worth, he was the reason you were in it to begin with. Him and Barkley's 5 touchdowns, I'm sure had something to do with that. Besides, I'm sure that Pitt's team under Narduzzi isn't like every other Pitt team. It will not inevitably fall apart, becoming the spoiler for Tate Conference and nothing else. Wonder if their conference is searching for new players. You might have some interest in that regard. These recaps might start to get a little bit faster here because every Michigan and Ohio State game seems to go the exact same way. We all know how the story goes. So once again, we meet in the exact same place we always have been. Penn State comes in as a heavy underdog against a more talented Ohio State team in a big game, which I'm sure Penn State will show up in and not fold in the worst moment imaginable. The only difference here is they actually didn't do the funny this time. Ohio State's offense couldn't shake off the Nittany Lion front 7, but rather than blank them on defense like most teams have been able to do, they additionally struggled to contain the run game once Barkley had some open air. In a game this close, someone was bound to make a massive mistake, and usually that's Penn State's problem. But this time, that ain't how it goes.
This is from 45 and it's blocked. Lions scoop it up. Grant Haley will score.
I think I felt that crowd jump all the way from over here in Tennessee. This monumental stand was the first of many things for the Nittany Lions. The first win over Ohio State since 2011, the first win against the top 5 team since 1999, the first top 2 win at home in almost half a century, but most of all, it was the first big game that James Franklin actually won. It may have been by Marcus Allen's hands, but it's a big game all the same. The whiteout in the stands became the whiteout on the field. And because the Buckeyes got the good part in the game by a ref ball, Penn State managed to somehow win the Big Ten East and show up to face off against Wisconsin in the Big Ten Championship. Yeah, because believe it or not, there was once upon a yesterdecade where the Big Ten West had some actual competition. There was almost a time where the Big Ten East wasn't led by Ohio State or Michigan either. Half the change was here. The issue was in regards to your will to solidify that change. You weren't having it. You let Wisconsin take a 3-touchdown lead in the time span of a quarter. Once again, the king of yards. You had near double in passing what Bart Houston had, and yet you gutted yourself before they could. And against one of the top defenses in the land, it was going to take half a miracle for the Nittany Lions to claim the title at this rate. But just when they needed him most, McSorley ball.
Deep down the field. In the end zone.
And just like that, the day has been saved. Trace McSorley puts up nearly 400 yards passing to break the backs of Paul Christ and his defense by sealing the largest comeback in the 6-year history of the title game. Only Ohio State had landed such a feat against Wisconsin. As great as it was to win the title, Penn State had peaked long too late, for those 2 losses from earlier in the year came back to bite them in the CFP rankings. Ohio State was thrown in to sub for the Big Ten, so they'd have to go with a lesser but still quite phenomenal brawl. The granddaddy of them all against the Pac-12's USC. Alabama is still scoring touchdowns on their defense, so this shouldn't be a hard one for Penn State to win. Alright? Yeah, as you would have expected, Penn State's defense forgot how to defense. Southern Cal legend Sam Darnold ended the night against them with more than 450 yards passing and nearly 500 total. Plus the added turnovers from the line shaking themselves carved a path for USC to go toe-for-toe with Penn State up until the final moments of the game. Franklin had the game all but won until the Condoms locked in and scored back-to-back drives in the final quarter. Now entering the final drive of regulation with a tie ball game, deep on the run side of the field, you'd think James Franklin would drop the aggression for a second and let their team take it to overtime knowing they can hang with their opposition. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
Completion here, the Lions will have to punt the ball away. Another downfield shot, got one, and it is intercepted this time by McQuay. Down the sidelines and knocked out. It's good. USC wins it.
This moment of catastrophic postseason failure was brought to you by Big Game Saves! Come back next year when you get to see just about exactly what you saw every other year previous. This road has been a joyous one so far. 7-0, number 2 team in the nation, and a top 10 defense, and get this, offense too! With most of last year's superstars returning for another season, this is less of a surprise to the Nittany Lion faithful. Now heading back to Columbus, you did what you hoped you would. Punched them in the mouth and led them bleeding through most of the game. However, keyword, most. Even with a dominant offensive game plan, ability to capitalize on drives for once, and a favorable catch decision by ref ball to go up 15 in the third quarter, you were once again left at the mercy of Big Game James! They will one day study this man's inability to close out a dadgum game because nobody's better at it than him in pulling winnable losses out of a hat. Nothing describes that oxymoron better than running the ball up the middle 3 times on Nick Bosa and being surprised you didn't get a dadgum yard. Look at that, JT Barrett's leading the Buckeyes down the field effortlessly. It's almost like you should have tried to do something before to stop this. How is it that you can find the worst times to play conservative and then get aggressive at some even worse times? I feel bad for the Nittany Lions because they, as well as everybody else, know what comes next.
Touchdown Buckeyes! Marcus Ball! J.T. Barrett!
Well, that sucked. Sucked worse than the word can emphasize. Good news is that with the playoff system, all you've got to do from this point onward is win the rest of your games, and you might have a spot waiting at the end of the year. Not like anyone else on the schedule could give you complications.
Inside 10. On 4th down and 3. He throws the slant and it's incomplete. Tompkins couldn't hang on, and Penn State turns it over on downs.
Why? Why? Why are you a thing? My brain mass is falling apart. It could dive into the negatives at any moment. Oh, look at that. Wow, looks like me and your run game have something in common.
Saquon up the middle.
And we're right back where we always seem to reside. Agitated Valley under the lights with a 100% chance of disappointment. The largest crowd in Beaver Stadium history was here for this one, hoping to repeat the glory that came with the result from 2 years ago. And it appeared to be their lucky day. The pop-off was insane, the stadium was pumping like it never had before. Was there glory in the making? Was history about to be carved for the Nittany Lions? Something was cooking alright. And that was Big Game James! It took only minutes for the Buckeyes to quit playing with their yearly entree and promptly scored off the feet of KJ Hill. No need to panic just yet though. You still have the ball, you only need a field goal, you've got 2 whole minutes to work with. Just let McSorley cook on this 4th and 5 and you're golden.
Just get it off. Sanders, smarter,
Run it up the middle like I ain't even trying. My name is James Franklin and I'm a giant clown. Ride that moral victory train again because you get to once again delude yourself into thinking you can win out the rest of the way and backdoor your way into the playoffs this time. I'm sure this schedule is very manageable.
I seem to have stepped on a landmine of some sort.
Why'd you do something like that?
It was a slow day.
Well, it wouldn't move.
I'd like to at some point.
And move they didn't. I guess you really took after consistency, huh? Consistent losses to the same teams every season that make me feel like I'm back in Knoxville or taking a trip to the Big 12 for any team serving under Oklahoma and Texas. Trace McSorley was beat up to hell because his offensive line only showed up in spurts. Spurts is in when they were down 35-0. Good job, you avoided the shutout. You can go join Florida in the club of didn't get shut out because you know you're in no prestige for anything above that. Case in point. I want you to picture in your mind a team that pretends to have an elite head coach who has a recorded loss to Mark Stoops. Now that you're done picturing Lane Kiffin, here's Franklin's turn. He at least gets the blue ribbon of losing to a competent Kentucky team that ran Benny Snell into the metaphorical and very literal ground. What'd you think Terry Wilson was going to move the football? Good on you for being a team player and giving the Wildcats their best ever season in program history. Giving to the less fortunate. How kind! Can't spell penicillin without pen. What could be worse than giving a basketball school a monumental W in a postseason? James knows the answer to that. Giving a rowing school a monumental W in the regular season. PJ Fleck found himself a new back to abuse, and with consistency being their motto, you know Penn State consistently can't defend the run when needed. Wait a minute, they defended against Muhammad Abraham? Then how'd they f*** this up? You're shitting my ass upside down. Now you struggle against the pass too? Luckily for you, with McSorley off to the NFL, you can now officially administer the era of Hackenberg 3.0. Sean Clifford. The results were to be as expected. Lots of yards, lots of movement, no results. What's that? Jahan Dotson gets the Nittany Lions down to the 10-yard line with 90 seconds left to go. Better force an offensive pass interference to push us back and send us on to a 3rd and 24.
Ohio State. 3-man rush. Clifford again has time. Throws, and it is intercepted in the end zone by Jordan Howden.
Big game Clifford! Had to change the branding temporarily, and you'll see why. He's the James Franklin of unclutched quarterbacks. Giving to the less fortunate again, how kind! Nobody can do it better. Words of advice from a team that also consistently struggles to beat their top-ranked rivals: showing up on enemy territory for only one quarter out of the 4 isn't going to do you any good when trying to win games. Big fart stain for big noon. What else do you want me to say? It's a carbon copy of the previous games, with the only difference being the debut of Hackenberg 3.5. Will Levis. The only reason for that was Clifford getting injured through indirect contact from the bulldozer from Columbus. Now, after 6 years of the same continuous pattern, I want you to take an educated or wild guess as to what occurred through the next 6 years. Trust me, it only gets better from here.
Steps in.
This day was known for one of two things: the renaissance of Michael Penix Jr. and the other thing, where people realized James Franklin may not be built for championships. Luckily, that didn't matter anyway, because y'all were straight dumpster outside of a Winn-Dixie level of ass. Production of another forgettable ending against Ohio State. At least for y'all. Then again, all of the COVID year was like that. What's that? You mean to tell me Iowa has formed themselves a national title level defense but still has no offense to speak of? One that rides off the back of whether or not Spencer Petrie Dish is mobile enough to get out of trouble? Better line up in a shitty zone coverage and leave someone wide open!
And he'll throw it. Rose looks backside. Caught! Out of bounds!
Big game James! Well done, letting Iowa take the throne of the Big Ten for a week before they blew up to Purdue for no reason. Giving to the less fortunate once another, how kind!
It's a trick play. There's a flip. Clifford can't catch it. Steps up. Under pressure. Tipped ball towards. They'll run it with Noah Kane. Breaks a tackle. Breaks. Here comes the blitz. It's going to be down for the third time. The ball is loose. Running the other direction is Big Jerome Cage. It's a scoop and score for the Buckeyes.
What's that? Penn State is the lead over a top 10 Michigan at home, one with a furious rushing attack? What better way to whiff on this opportunity than let the tight end beat everyone in your defense in a dadgum drag route?
Here comes the Penn State blitz. Lots of running room down the sideline. Eric All, the tight end. Will they catch him? No! Touchdown, Michigan!
Absolute James. And y'all had Tyler Warren by this point, so that just makes it even more embarrassing. You know, how big are the games at this rate? Because getting melted by Peyton Thorne is just about rock bottom for a program of your inflated stature. When Tyler Warren himself as a freshman is the best blocker you have on the team, you knew better than anyone you were a tad bit overhyped. Remember that one time y'all were ranked in the top 5? Good times. I also remember when you shut down KJ Jefferson for a full half before forgetting how to in the second. Why? Big game! Bloomin' onions! Peak of the Sam Pittman experience somehow. Being force-fed to the less fortunate. How kind! So, dangerous defense. You want to talk about that? Doesn't it ever feel like we're just watching the same game on repeat, slowly watching as James Franklin crashes out on the sideline because of a slow burn through a terrible O-line and a turnover ratio to Ohio State's that makes everyone wonder whether or not there was foul play involved on the field goal block from 8 seasons ago. But it's CJ Stroud. How'd you think this was gonna go? Since the Big Ten had to go shit themselves in the playoffs, it was your turn to follow suit. But seeing as it was Sean Clifford's final dance and all the stakes were off the table other than bowl game supremacy, Penn State's offense uncharacteristically remembered how to ball, and that showed through their efforts against Utah. It sealed their second Rose Bowl win in school history and gave Franklin his first real big win since, fuck if I know. Can this momentum be carried further into the next character of Hackenberg's? Yes, because there's another on the way. Enter Hackenberg 4.0, Drew Aller. It's awful. It's so awful. Jumping headfirst into the star-like pit known as their luck and game management against Ohio State again. The Nittany Lion defense kept their opposition in check, but Aller was flattened on every possession, so it hardly mattered. Every fourth down attempt was like watching an animal right before getting euthanized. Everyone knows the outcome every time. Read this book over and over again, and it's written like a Pippa Dojin, one where even the protagonist is a loser. Would you be surprised if I told you another Penn State touchdown got reversed by ref ball? Like I said, everyone knows the outcome every time. I think the only thing to take away from this rendition of the annual letdown of Penn State was that James got beat at home by a coach who wasn't even a coach yet. That and J.J. McCarthy attempted 8 passes all game long. It's a stat that could make Sharon Moore cry. You're consistently getting bounced by the Big Ten's best, and that includes the likes of Kyle McCord and J.J. McCarthy. In what universe did you think you'd see anything different in an offense commanded by Jackson Dart, giving Elaine Kiven his first 11-win season in the Kentucky Biological Sun Bowl? Death at the hands of the less fortunate. How kind!
My skin is curling.
I feel like at some point, something has to change. This is your most talented team that we've seen at Penn State in a very long time. Stacked across the board. Best tight end in the land who can catch a dadgum snitch. Elite run game with 2 different backs. One of the greatest defenses with the best edge rusher Franklin has ever had in Abdul Carter. And on top of that, you have the Bucknuts at home. Top 5 game, massive home environment. Aller was actually moving down the field every once in a while. Warren is the one making godlike catches, mainly because all the receivers are MIA, but still making godlike catches. Down by 7 late in the fourth quarter, all you have to do is get a single yard to tie the game.
State with a chance to tie this game up. Katron Allen should. They hand it off. Allen, and he'll get a little closer. They give it to him. Allen, and that Ohio defense stout in the middle again. Aller looking in the end zone, incomplete. Ohio State 1-14 at Penn State against top 5 teams. Ryan Day, they were miserable this week on the conference call for.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Me thinks someone owes Michigan a big ol' thank you. Because of them, it's now James Franklin versus the #1 team of the land. Yeah, I see no way this goes wrong. If anything, you should be thankful for your Little Debbie cream pie schedule and Ohio State blowing up against a 5-loss Michigan. How would Penn State respond to getting such a luxurious gift in the form of playing in the Big Ten Championship again? Only one answer to that, and I think you know it. Big Game James! The only thing worse than getting flattened on the big noon slate is getting the treatment on CBS at night in Lucas Oil Stadium for everyone to watch. James is either going to get nuked in the first half and then play seriously to make it look closer than it was, or he'll have the lead late just to throw the game away through horrifically timed aggressiveness or conservativeness. Option 1 it is today. Dylan Gabriel's 4 touchdown passes and lack of ability to stop him caused the shitty Lions to be on the back foot for the entire duration of the game. The effort to come back by Aller and company was valiant, but alas, no Penn State game is complete without the Hackenberg trademark.
Drew Aller loads, going deep, far sideline, it's intercepted. Picked off by Nico Reed.
A game-losing interception. Another certified moment of consistency in the books. We're going to learn from it, says Franklin. Been saying that for 11 years, James. Good news is that because the ACC and the G6 exist, we have a 12-team playoff, so James can afford to lose a few games and now still play in the big dance, solidifying Penn State's first appearance in the college football playoffs. And now, talent! The horses were completely out-talented. No more gifts to the less fortunate. The horses were completely out-talented. No more gifts to the less fortunate. The horses were completely out-talented. Hold on, wait a second. This is a competent opponent. Had me thinking they were playing Northern Illinois for a second. These two actually have a lot of similarities. Two programs trying to regain national spotlight, which have been given a golden opportunity to benefit off of a weak schedule, both of which have elite defenses that carried them through most of their competition. But neither could win the conference, one being a whole lot more obvious as to why. One marquee difference was Riley Leonard's ability to put his life on the line and decide he didn't need anyone to block for him. He'd just run through a motherfucker. And if it wasn't him, it was Jeremiah Love. Franklin, on the other hand, had to put all his hopes and dreams onto the hands of Tyler Ward, plus the help on the receiver core through. The running backs had some plays that got the Nittany Lions into a position to win the football game, and thanks to an Irish PI that reversed an interception, Penn State got their wish. A lead. Now you know it would be really funny if a Lion defensive back decided to fall on his back defending a post route. Imagine that happening.
8. Penn State leads by a touchdown. Leonard throws wide open. Jaden Greathouse avoided Jalen Reed and scores.
Touchdown Cam Miller. But that's okay though. It's not a backbreaker by any means. Now entering the final drive of regulation with a tie ball game deep on their own side of the field, you'd think James Franklin would drop the aggression for a second and let their team take it to overtime knowing they can hang with their opposition. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you?
As long as 49. Aller hit as he throws, and it is intercepted! Snap and hold are good. The kick is good!
This kick in the balls from Touchdown Jesus was brought to you by Big Game James Franklin. Good news here is that a whopping majority of your talent is coming back in 2025. Let's just hope that Abdul Carter wasn't your entire defense and Jim Knowles doesn't forget everything he learned at Ohio State. But like that would happen. This is it. This is the chance you've been waiting for. A team and a roster with enough talent in one position to win the MAC. This is your golden opportunity to prove that you have what it takes not just to compete, but win in the big leagues. Oregon taking an untested quarterback into a wideout brawl against an undefeatable run game. I sure do hope you don't let Dante Moore carve you up through the ground and on the air to go down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter.
Play the drive. Davison got it, and then some. Touchdown!
Why do you do things, genuinely? Yes, you were able to score, but you're going to need a miracle and a half to get Oregon off the field in time to do it again. You'll need something like the refs to catch one side of an altercation on the field. Oh, look at that. There you go. That's a start. Now all you got to do is not be yourselves. A couple of barely converted 4th downs later, and the glory that Penn State fans have been waiting for finally happened.
Shovel pass. It's Ross. It's a touchdown.
And just like that, chaos overtime was on the horizon. A win of this magnitude over a top 10 team, no less, could be astronomical for the big game James rap sheet. Or how I should have phrased it, oh, f it. Just get to the part where they lose.
Fake it to Pena. Aller, sideline. Oh, it's picked! Dylan Thieneman calls game! That's a walk-off whiteout winner for the Ducks.
I think out of all the hilarious things that came out of this result, probably the funniest to me was just how quick the fan base was to unanimously turn on Franklin, to the point that there were chants to fire his ass just for losing the umpteenth top 10 game of his career. It's like they haven't gotten used to it yet or something. Well, if you really wanted something that you're not used to anymore, well, I've got good and bad news for you because you won't be expecting what's coming next.
Gabriel Wosu set to kick off, and we're underway in Pasadena. And the Bruins will bring it out to the 25-yard line. Well, they might have one right here. Reaching for the pylon. Touchdown. Nico fires. End zone. Touchdown. Yes, he will. And he's in. Touchdown. Lava flushed out of the pocket. He'll use his legs again. And he's got a first down and a bunch more. A stiff arm. Nico. Yamaliava. And he's in again. Touchdown. Ava scans the field. Nico's going to take off. Nico to the end zone. Touchdown. And the ball game is over. The Bruins of UCLA at home win their first game of the year.
Big game! Oh wait, this isn't really a big game, is it? Any game, James! Winning the small games was about the only leverage you had left. And back-to-back meltdowns to Nico Amadolivia, a Pacific femboy, and a permanent placeholder Northwestern's coach. No playoffs, no titles, no retribution, no service. The floor from under you fell through like they put a line on top of a fence made out of sticks. You bent too hard, and now it broke. Somehow, through all the implosions you've had over the years in big games, this felt like the largest one of them all. Not because of the firing itself, but because of the legacy you'll be remembered for outside of questioning existence valley. While taking $49 million with you, you left behind a record of 4-21 against AP top 10 teams, 1-15 against AP top 5 teams, 1-10 against Ohio State, 3-7 against Michigan, and your last win against your own fan base was 10 years ago. For an era of coaching that started out as strong as it did, the fall-off seemingly overnight was insane to witness. Considering the position he was thrown into, it's safe to say Franklin still did better than most. Florida and LSU went through 3 different coaches by the time Franklin's run was over. Not being able to win the big ones is a hell of a lot better than not being able to win anything. Penn State fans would be wise to remember that in the coming years. Because where they are now is a complete enigma. They're now the Penn State Nittany Cyclones because they rented an entire team from over in the Midwest. They took their coaches, players, probably the janitor's pet goldfish too. It was like Plan J though in their envelope because the rest of them fell through. One of which was in part to crumble cookies, taking big game losses to a new level as you can't even win against the biggest cookie company now. Of course, Franklin's run as coach is far from over. You know the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And after having to endure years of Brent Pry, one program is desperate for something new. Franklin enters Sandman. He joins Virginia Tech in Blacksburg to help revive what was once a proud, strong program in the Atlantic. At least while Michael Vick was there. You've got the type of coach who can get a Michael Vick 2.0 and turn him into a Hackenberg 5.0. But the trade-off here is that Big Game James, or excuse me, Big Game James, has gone to the one place where big games don't reside, the ACC. Just don't schedule Notre Dame and you're set for the future. One thing is for sure, we'll get to come back to you one of these days, James, and however this expenditure may go, I can only say one thing to the Hokie Nation. Get your nutty buddies ready. You're gonna starve otherwise.
You know, I'm going to try to keep it loose here the second half. During the first half, I think we had a lot of little mix-ups here, little mental situations. We're going to We're going to clean all that up right now. You have to forgive me, a little out of breath just from the 15 yards I ran. We're probably going to run the 6-6 wombat, 42 jet left, pie, slide ruler, lightning 6, stubble smoke, ukulele.
Okay, ukulele, correct?
Wait a second. There's a guy over here who's not in uniform. It's supposed to be here. I got to go. Hold on.
Coach. That's too fast. That's too fast.